Hello everyone, my name is Gavin Hart. Unfortunately, as of this moment, my webcam is not working, but I at least have some footage from me from the Lindenwood eSports podcast. It's a podcast based on the production elements of the week and various elements, interviews with players, and other graphical works. But one of my favorite passion projects here at eSports, and the only one I'm actually talent for, since a lot of my work is behind the scenes, both on main media for ESPN and things of that nature. But I'm just going to do a little bit of an overview of a few things we do behind the scenes of esports. And, well, first, just so you can see my face, well, there I am. I was hosting solo that week because of co-host being sick, which was unfortunate, but it was great. It was a great week, great vibes, wonderful people I work with there. So, I think one of the things I wanted to look at first was just some things we do behind the scenes, and we do a little bit, honestly. We actually directed a little documentary. It's a mini documentary with some friends of mine at St. Louis Community College and Lindenwood students, as well as local high schools, in which we discuss the legacy of esports players and how it's reflected in local high schools with MOSEF, the Missouri Scholastic Esports Federation, in which I got help from people like Robert Larson, who is a semi-professional Unite player, Unite being an esport that we covered, and we actually looked behind the scenes there, and it was a fun thing to pull behind the curtain and discuss. So we actually worked on some documentaries, we had team intros, so we directed a lot of projects. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see too much of, well, direct Lindenwood stuff, since Lindenwood eSports does not have a Unite team directly. But just thought it was a little cool thing to note and mention, just to show that our stuff isn't all just buttons and other technical elements. We actually did direct and edit a documentary. Well, actually I did, but it was fun. It was fun. But I did want to look at some of the things that we do behind the scenes and the technical aspect. And when we look at that, I'm pulling out the eSports dashboard. It's one of our test software and main software we use to broadcast our games. It's in charge of our overlay and asset management, whether that be just setting names so that our graphics show up. You saw one of them, which was our L3 pop, which would be right here. Show up and show my name and you broadcast, while these would pop up the score bug and different elements because they're programmed to do that. So it's a bunch of programming and XMLs and a lot of testing, map selection. So a lot of our graphics are actually ran through this platform, in which started off as a template that we were given into becoming what me and my director Joe wanted it to be and are still working to develop. So whenever we were working on all of this, we're like, I kind of want said feature to, well, be put in play. Maybe we wanted, let's say, I'm trying to think about what was one of our more notorious ones that we put together. Score Pops was one of my big passion projects. We actually programmed that in Java. Let me pull that up for you here in a moment, hopefully. But we had to program these elements and make them work, and it was a lot of fun. We also figured out live replay. We don't have OBS connected to this one since I'm not on the main PC for that, which honestly also explains a lot of this. See, this video would actually be replaced by the broadcast, but unfortunately we didn't have time to film it this week, and we're actually going to be doing our first live LU broadcast on Monday the 6th. So that's going to be fun. Me and Justin Jetkin, or Justin Powell, one of the comm students who's also a media intern at the Battlehawks. Well, with the Battlehawks would be actually appropriate. But we actually make test teams, things of that nature. Brackets are something we actually do with our own Photoshop graphics. So a lot of the graphics, my Photoshop would not display for whatever reason, so I can't really show you the Photoshop graphics, but we do a lot of work with Photoshop here as well. And, I feel like we should go over and take a look at the VS Code, in which, so we actually program our code in Java. It's Java and CSS. So we have our normal pop-out, which is just various text that are actually developed for... This is like a general pop out. It's a general script that we modify for whatever we need it to. And then you have its connected HTML coded in CSS to, well, make it function, make it beautiful, and make it work. Which you can find on our streams on twitch.tv/LU eSports. I'll be linking it in one of my assignments. Just because I am a producer and director there, it never hurts to talk about, hey, you can watch these. And we're working on student advertising spotlights there and get everything in business to, well, help the students out. And give them also more of a voice too and more of an impact in these broadcasts. I mean, we have a contractor and the rest are all student workers, well, interns, and some team members on scholarship. So, hey, for students, by students, pretty much, besides one who was a former student who also founded the program in Joe Kuhn. Not founded, but founded a program that directly related and became the esports program here at Lindenwood University. And speaking of me being a producer and director, I'm actually going to take us over there, and I'm using some fun transitions here. A lot of fun. We've actually been experimenting with these for our broadcasts, in which you can see us use the Luma wipe in our Valorant broadcast. But speaking of Valorant, on April 1st, it was April Fool's Day, we did have a broadcast in which I was the director and producer for, so I managed all graphical elements, I managed... It was a lot of things, because I also had to get our talent, organize or run a show. At eSports, our producers do a lot of the studying for our commentators, so this is what this is. It's my note sheet. I have my talent. I have who's producing and directing. For this specific broadcast, I was doing both. My observers, which would be Robert Larson and Michael Wilfong in their roles. POV cams are first-person cameras. Cin cams are cinematic cameras for cinematic elements during a game, or graphical elements I have to put on screen. And you look at this and you're researching, hey, what's this team's record? What's our team's record? We don't talk about that sometimes. We actually won this game, by the way. It was a great win. We had a very rough early schedule in our group, and this is specifically our Valorant team, because our Overwatch team made playoffs and unfortunately fell to one of the top teams in the nation and things of that nature. But you also have to go back years and go research, hey, what's the first meeting of these teams? Because you want to give proper information on what you're talking about. You want to know what you are talking about. And then you have your, like, hey, these are the players of the enemy team. This is their best roster. This is their average rank. This was Varsity Plus, so it's the equivalent of JV. So, hey, they average at this rank. So if we want to use it for a graphic asset, or if you want to compare the teams, that average rank helps. Or, hey, this is the players on your roster. We don't have any notable seniors, so we don't put, well, notable seniors if they aren't notable, but we just don't have seniors, so. That's just kind of how that looks. Tournament history, there is no tournament history for these two teams, but we'd go back years, look at some of our archives, you'll look at archives of NACE, the North American Collegiate Esports Association, things of that nature. We have some program history where we'd actually go back and I talked with the producers a little bit and some of the coaches at Long Beach City College, and we're like, hey, so this is cool. I also looked at their web pages and did some research into their program, in which actually one of my friends is on their Call of Duty team as a coach and former player who is going to Orlando to compete in LAN finals. So I'm like, hey, just congratulations. That was a brief shout out we had in there. I can't remember if we made that the broadcast, but it was something we had as an option. There was no graphic for it, so it would just been a vocal shout out. We had Lindenwood eSports history, which was fun to write about, and we actually condensed it just to Valorant, because I wrote an essay on the creation of the team, and that alone was like 7, 8 paragraphs, so a lot of major Lindenwood notes and accomplishments, especially recently, broadcast-wise, and in the sense of just general team achievements. We had to research the implications of the match, especially playoff implications. Like, this was a big game for Lindenwood. They needed to win, or else they would have been eliminated from playoffs. So, massive implications, and they actually won, and a lot of it's going in Lindenwood's favor, so it's cool to note, hey, this is what needs to happen, and a lot of it's happening. We also made Players to Watch, the podcast, which I do with Justin Powell. We give ourselves Players to Watch on the side of Lindenwood, in which I note, but I also go out of my way every so often and just say, hey, this is the enemy team's player. I went back, watched some of their film. I go back, look at the statistics. I go back and look at if there's any articles written about them from the school. And so we go back, we take a look at that, and then our talent gives a few notes that could be useful, and then we design a run of show, in which you can once again catch live on twitch.tv/LU eSports. Actually, I'm going to put up a clip for you all here, and we can talk a little bit about what all goes into an esports broadcast, like in the live element. And pulling that up for you now. One of the things we do at esports is we actually do a lot of our stuff live, which is good. It should be live, not even gonna lie to you, but when I'm saying that, it means a lot of our graphical elements, like when we're transitioning stuff, usually tends to be live. And the Luma wipe I was talking about earlier, oh, that's a different one, actually. Unfortunately, didn't get that one in, but there's various elements that we go through, graphics-wise. This is our Be Right Back screen with an actually animated by one of our interns, topographical screen. And we just have our map set graphics, which is controlled through the esports dashboard. And then this was a director preference, so we actually turn off our score bug to start while they pick our talent speaking in the background. And then we actually bring our score bug on. I think we were running on technical issues at the first. Yeah, we did not get into like the third restart. So we actually were like, okay, we're having some problems. There was some debate on what was happening. So we actually decided to do our player to watch. So we had the last minute make this graphic, but it was a really cool one. We talked about our players to watch, our talent described, our notes, and things of that nature. And then we had to go back to a break. Normally this break screen actually transitions to a video element, but we did not have video elements this week to transition to. And then we direct, like I would be like, hey, I need this player, the talent's talking about them, and direct where I want my observers to go. I'm trying to see if I can get the send cam, because this is all player point of view cams. Yep, see, cinematic cam, you get that angle, you try to set the scene a little bit. And my role is also doing SynCam and other broadcasts while directing, producing, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We actually set up our own player cameras and create custom frames. This was one of mine, where we actually get our various player elements. And it took a little bit. It was designed on Photoshop. We actually do 3D frames for Overwatch, which was a lot of research, and it looks good. I love it. It looks great. So, yeah. But just various elements, our score bug, we have stat pops. I don't think we used them for Valorant this week, just because it was a bit niche of what stats we'd be able to use, and then the pops weren't entirely perfect yet. But yeah, so a lot of my free time is done here. I think one of my favorite things is using a very specific Luma key wipe, which dissolves a lot of these. It's a special dissolve, as you see there, and we do that to fill our breaks. And we actually, pretty sure one of our observers had a lot of fun. But my job is also switching in the broadcast, so we transition, we'd swap to screens, things of that nature. Jake was a good sport, graduate student here at Lindenwood. We had an interview. Unfortunately, this changed very last second. We actually went with Parker, who is also a really good player, really good individual, great person here at Lindenwood, but just unfortunate from the graphical side, we had everything set up for Sunbreaker. And we have our map set, and Lindenwood wins. So just many different elements of esports, a lot of time actually. So what you saw here is actually just a little bit of what we do. There's so much setting. It takes about, a broadcast alone takes about 12 hours normally. From planning to setup to prep. We now have a partnership with Mosef, so it's creating graphics for high school teams too, and it's a lot of fun though. It's really rewarding, a really rewarding experience indeed. We also just had fun. We actually made one point this friends like opening with a lot of esports guys like Robert, Mikey. Chris is one of the recruits that we wanted. Alex was one of the recruits. We actually, you can see the talent setup here. We have a Razer Keo for now as our main broadcast cam with 2 monitors. It actually looks slightly different. It's now a more angled setup. But we have our Razer Keo. We have a 2 monitor setup with a sound dampening curtain for our talent, and then this is a producer setup. You have a stream deck, you have 3 monitor setup, you have your graphics to your left, or your OBS, your eSports dash in front of you with the replay software on, and usually you're watching the observers on a multi-viewer on one of those 3 monitors, on top of watching your OBS to check your stream. Just a lot of fun we had. You can see we have one of our observer PCs are in the back behind me. We record in our overflow room, so we have production and overflow. So we have about 4 dedicated prod PCs throughout. We have a few TVs and things of that nature. And one of the policies, which is funny, you're supposed to eat on the floor. You're not allowed to eat at your desk, or you eat upstairs. So during a broadcast, we'd sometimes just snack on the floor. And this is one of the jokes we had for the music video project that I did, was we just reference that and reference what our journeys are and just have some fun. So I thought I'd just highlight that. We just direct some projects and things of that nature. But I thought I'd show a little bit of what esports is like, production wise, and maybe show you a bit more, hopefully. But also, you'll likely see the Lindenwood podcast as my next project that I will show. Unfortunately, a lot of my broadcasts are behind the scenes on ESPN Plus or Lindenwood Esports, so it's not a lot of me on the camera since my work is always behind the scenes, but can show a little bit of that, a little bit of what we do. And yeah, thank you for watching.